And joining me to keep the conversation going is Illinois Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. He is a member of the House Intelligence Committee and ranking member of the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kristen.
Well, you just heard that breaking news, but let me reiterate it to the best of my understanding for our audience and for you. Savannah just reporting that effectively the Biden administration will not enforce the fines on companies who do support TikTok on their apps, basically reversing the idea of a ban. What's your reaction, Congressman?
Well, my reaction is I'm waiting for the Supreme Court first to hand down its decision so we know exactly how the law is going to be handled by the courts. I expect it's going to be upheld. And then with regard to the Biden administration, my viewpoint is that, ByteDance needs to pick up the phone and answer a call from any number of suitors and bidders for the company, and then seek an extension of the law, under the provisions of the law. That would be the easiest and cleanest way to proceed right now.
Are you surprised that President Biden seems to have flip-flopped on this issue? I mean, he already signed the bill into law.
I don't think he's flip-flopped. I think that what he's saying is, basically for that one day, he may not be collecting the fines. But on the other hand, we don't know the legal ramifications of that. And I'm not sure that the different third parties that were mentioned, whether it's the Apple or Google Play stores or others, are going to rely on that with regard to enforcing the provisions of the law.
Congressman, I want to play you something that Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer had to say on the Senate floor today. Get your reaction.
The law passed last year was intended to sever TikTok from the influence of the CCP while keeping the app available for Americans. It's clear that more time is needed to find an American buyer and not disrupt the lives and livelihoods of millions of Americans, of so many influencers who have built up a good network of followers.
Do you agree with Chuck Schumer, Congressman?
Yeah, I think there should be an extension of time right now, but I think that there should be a meaningful negotiation to trigger that extension of time. It's been 270 days since ByteDance, which is controlled by the CCP, has had to initiate negotiations. Any further extension without any meaningful progress on the sale of the company is not going to yield any different results. We need to see that progress right now to trigger the extension, and then we can kind of enable the law to be complied with and our national security to be protected.
It seems like, according to the Washington Post, at least, that President-elect Trump also looking to potentially sign an executive order to give TikTok more time to agree to a sale or an alternative deadline. What is your message, and how concerned are there that there won't be a deadline?
Well, I think my message is that an executive order can't undo a piece of legislation. This is the legislation that was passed by 360 members of Congress. If Donald Trump wants to unwind the legislation, he can come back to Congress to repeal or revise it. But I've talked to incoming members of the Trump administration, including Mike Walls, my friend and colleague, who's now the incoming national security advisor. They have the exact same concerns about TikTok that we do, which is that we want TikTok to survive and flourish, but not under the control of the CCP. The CCP has repeatedly, as the DC Circuit Court of Appeals mentioned, stolen tens of millions of Americans' personal records, whether it's through the Equifax hack, the Anthem hack, or the Office of Personnel Management hack. This is a loaded gun, and we don't need to wait for a smoking gun and a dead body in order to act right now.
Let me change gears a little bit here. Congressman Mike Turner, who is the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, was removed by Speaker Johnson. What is your reaction to that?
I was shocked. I thought it was completely unacceptable what happened. I actually talked to Mike last night, and on one level, he was unceremoniously dumped, which is a kind of not exactly the right way to handle somebody who has served on that committee with such distinction for so long. But on another level, this is just dangerous for our national security, Kristen. You know, Mike, I don't agree with Mike on a lot of things. He's a conservative Republican from Southwest Ohio. But what I do agree with him on is we have to take an objective, bipartisan approach with regard to holding officials of the intelligence community accountable. If you don't do that, then you're going to allow members of the incoming Trump administration, for instance, to do things that could endanger our national security. And we can't allow that to happen. This has to be a bipartisan concern. And I'm very, very disturbed by what happened last night.
You know, Speaker Mike Johnson said Congressman Turner's ouster was not President-elect Trump's decision. What do you make of that?
No, this was straight out of Mar-a-Lago. This was a Mar-a-Lago MAGA move. Okay, this was absolutely something that Donald Trump engineered because, for instance, Mike Turner doesn't agree with him on Ukraine. He believes that we should do everything to assist Ukraine in against the criminal invasion that Russia has undertaken there. Mike Turner said other things, such as, for instance, January 6th, 2021 was completely unacceptable, and the insurrection and the riots. And so what I'm trying to say is that this was absolutely a move that was triggered by Donald Trump. And unfortunately, I hope it's not a sign of things to come with regard to the other business of Congress.
Congressman Krishnamurthy, I have a bunch more questions for you. We're out of time, though. Please come back again soon. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.